Yeah, and this is, again, this is the issue with Fannie Willis and the prosecutor who was also her secret boyfriend that she was paying state money to run
Yes.
the case. And it all, this creates a big sort of idea that there's a lot of political interference in this, as there is in New York, where the Manhattan District Attorney's Office has now said that they're willing to delay Trump's hush money trial for another 30 days, according to a court filing. Now, this hush money case that was scheduled to start on March 25th, pushing this back, does this have implications for the November election?
Well, look, it probably does, in the sense that, I mean, you have to laugh a bit. I mean, in the space of 3 months, it seems most of the serious cases against Donald Trump, and of course there's the 4 indictments, and the hush money case is one of those indictments, but they're all being pushed, constantly being pushed into the future. It seems more and more likely that most of them are going to be after the 2024 election. I mean, this one, of course, won't be, but it's just amusing that even that, which of course was meant to be set in stone, for the 25th of March, is even going to be pushed forward by 30 days. And of course, it's worth pointing out too that that particular case, which is the only one of the 4 that is scheduled so far, is the case that I would say is the most politically helpful to Donald Trump of all. That was the first indictment, I believe, that was issued last year, and of course, after it was issued, his polling soared. So I mean, he's probably not too, so he'd be pleased with the delay, of course. But I mean, if any of the 4 cases gets to go ahead, I think he'd want it to be this one.
Yeah, indeed. Now, I want to move on then now to Trump's position in the election here, because one of the big issues here that we're seeing play out is always, of course, the economy. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Inflation is still apparently a killer for a lot of Americans. New data released this week showed inflation edging up again to 3.2% in February. Yet here's what Joe Biden had to say.
Wages are rising faster than prices, and now we have among the lowest inflation rates of any country in America, and we're still fighting to lower it even further.
The lowest inflation rate of any country in America. Adam, this is putting aside the president's word salad there, this would suggest that there's a big issue politically for the president if he cannot say that prices are coming down for Americans.
Yes. Yeah, well, it certainly is. And, of course, there's no chance that he'll ever be able to say that prices are actually coming down. I mean, inflation is still very much positive. It's 3.2%, as you said, over the year to February. And a few years ago, that would have been considered a massive rate of inflation. I mean, it's not low, 3.2% every year. I mean, if you add that up over 5 years, that's an enormous amount of inflation. So, so ordinary Americans are feeling it. And, I noticed there the president said that wages are rising faster than inflation. Well, maybe for some people, but certainly not for most people. I think he's wrong there with the statistics. And it's probably the case that the people who are getting... Sorry, go on.
Oh, I was going to say, because I thought there was a really interesting little cultural marker about this here. The New York Times, which of course is read by, a higher income elite group of people in America, they published this week a collection of 100 cheap dinners for inflation-heavy times. That's how they build it. So clearly this would be something that's affecting people, at all ends of the economic spectrum now in America.
Yes, but I mean, it certainly affects the poorer people the most, obviously, because they're far more attuned to the cost of things at the supermarket, than wealthy people, than the sorts of people that read the New York Times, and even civil servants. Anyone who works for the federal or state government tends to get an indexation in their pay, which is linked to inflation. So, so the people that really suffer are the low-income workers in the private sector who don't get indexation, and for whom inflation just makes them poorer and poorer. And also those people, they tend to have savings in the bank in the form of bank deposits. And of course, every time inflation goes up, the value of those deposits declines. So, I mean, inflation really is an insidious beast for, for a very large share of the US population.